no, I did this. Examiners said they were fine with this, and now you're changing your mind.
Yeah.
I'm fine if you change your mind. Prove to me in the regulations why you're
Now let's
changing
have
the
a different
mind. Let's see if I
conversation.
have to agree with that. But you're not going to write me up for something that you approved prior and that we've been going along on that path because we all felt that that was covering it sufficiently.
All right, we're back. And if you were listening to the last episode, we talked about when is the best time to start a business. And we got into an aspect of that was looking at the market, seeing is there opportunity or is there demand in the market for what it is that you're trying to do. Sort of taking off of that, the question that we want to answer today is how do you test demand for a product that you're starting as a first-time business or a new product or service that you want to launch? They're different things because if you're currently operating, you have access to other feedback. But yeah, I mean, you've done this a lot. So I'm curious to know from a bank's perspective, if you want to offer something new, what do you do?
So, I mean, the first thing I have to do in any new product services, and, you know, we call it a risk assessment.
Sure.
Which should be, you know, everybody can develop their own.
Yeah.
And so specifically on our risk assessment, you know, hopefully regulators listen to this because well, we have guidance.
They'll find it.
You know, you have guidance. So I'm limited down, you know, examiners, but you know, you look at, you know, risk. Okay, what you are, you know, what product or service you're selling, and if you've already got a company, you go through the comparator. So like, what expertise do you need for that product or service? Mm-hmm. Go through that. The cost. How does it connect? You know, for us, it's okay, we're adding a new product. Are we adding a new third-party vendor? Are they having any connection to us?
To your systems, yeah.
Correct. In any business, even a lawn service, if you're connecting to your bank account, you need to think in that, oh, is it QuickBooks? Okay, well, QuickBooks, you know, has a good level of security, you know, so they've been around it, you know, so connectivity, how it's connecting, look at the risk on that. How does it impact you know, of course, marketing wise, is there any other
from a brand standpoint?
Yeah, from a brand, you look at it. Is it have continuity to brand? Mm-hmm. Also, you know, is your messaging, how clear is it? How difficult? You want to always avoid the abundance of, and I hate this on myself. So, I mean, it kind of annoys me that banks have to have guidance to tell them, you know, don't be unfair and deceptive marketing because my age, like, no, like you deserve to be punished if you're unfair and deceptive marketing.
That's right.
I can't stand it if anybody is unfair and deceptive to me, so I'm not going to be that to there. But, you know, sometimes you also get caught in the no, and maybe you're not, maybe because you know the product and someone that doesn't. So going through that process too. Are you actually displaying it to where the end user understands it?
Are you communicating
completely?
it so it's clear?
Yes. And especially on the banking products, that is official. I mean, you know, you see why when people quote rates, it's, you know, APY, you know, you got to say the rate and the APY, you know, you got to say them both together because, you know, yes, there's reasons for it, unfair and deceptive. And then go there, look at your margins. How does it figure? Is it going to take away from your existing staff? If it takes away, what does it take from there? Because, okay, you got a great product. It's going to net you, you know, an extra $50,000 a year, but you're taking away from something that's netting $100,000. Bad move.
Yeah.
You know, so you just have to go through each little risk assessment, the controls in place, worst case scenarios that can go wrong. You know, for us, if we're adding a new bill payment provider, okay, well, that's going to then reside on and have connectivities to our core. And that's going to have connectivities to online banking. So then when our customers are in online banking and they, you know, want to issue an external transfer through that bill pay provider, what are the risks and what are the things they're doing in there? Is that bill pay provider then checking IP addresses?
Right.
Are we having IP addresses linked? If there is something false to go for, who's capable? So it's just running through the worst case scenario on everything. And do you have an answer for that worst case scenario?
Yeah, this is really good, really helpful. I mean,
that's on that side.
But
you know, that's not going to correlate to everyone else. And we're just,
it's so funny though, because like, what you wouldn't do to just be in a business where you didn't have all of this like extra layers of, you know, response. But I think the fact that you're in it is such value to everyone who's not in it, because it gives them a perspective that they maybe not ever thought of their business. So if you tell me,
you know, if you give me a product or something unrelated to banking, I could put in place, okay, what are the risks associated with that and how can I follow through with that? You know, so
it's not going to be as complex as it would be
So
in
if
banking.
it's a service,
but
be
it's
timing. How
still-
much time is it involved in each unit?
Yeah.
How much, okay, walk through that process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now you sold it to them. Then how much time is it going to take to maintain that relationship?
Mm-hmm.
That could be on the consultant side.
Yeah.
Okay, walk through that process.
Right.
But that is just walking through every process, having it note down.
Yep.
And then how can I start with minimal absolute risk with minimal lower down? Because what traditional banks do is, I'm going to go hire a consultant for $50,000 to tell me.
To tell you, yeah.
Are you kidding me? Just Google all this shit
just
and
go
go
and
through
find
your
it.
own stuff.
Yeah.
And can I test this with minimal risk?
Yeah.
Can I launch this product? And what is the worst case minimal risk at this level? If you can live with that worst case minimal risk, then just start it.
Just start, yeah.
And
then,
then,
in the tech world, it's minimal viable product is what you're putting to the market,
Yes.
MVP. Similar idea here. Just start with baby step and test it.
on your worst. And then you start opening up your risk as it's going well.
And you start to learn about the product, how it's the favor in the market or not, or how it works, how it's affecting your staff, how it's affecting your systems, all this stuff.
So one product we're going to be launching hopefully this month, which is an extension of stuff that we already know, is just going about it a different way. So I developed my own risk, because I got consultant, started risk assessment back in last year, May, June.
Yeah.
June.
A lot of planning involved.
Yeah,
in
we did a
launching
risk
something.
assessment, went through that, had an outline. Okay, we know we need to have these technology products and everything we started. And now we're getting close to launching. So after the one person launching, we're going to go for a few days. And then now I'm going to bring back that risk assessment and go through all those risks that we originally identified and see if they held taut. Is that risk still there? Did we mitigate it?
Yep.
And then we're going to learn new risks.
That's a very
From there.
thorough undertaking and understanding of your business and the efforts that you're taking to grow the business. I mean, I don't think most regular businesses, not banks, think of their business in that way and that thoroughly.
No, but they should.
One, because they're not forced to through regulatory layers, but two, because
most banks you see out there are forced to, and they're still not doing it.
yeah, okay. So there you go.
They're getting consent orders. All that banking as a service.
Yeah.
There's
But you
orders
learn
out there
so
that didn't
much
follow
through
through
that process. I mean, you gain so many insights that can be applied to the next thing you launch or the success of this current one.
Yeah, I mean, so you just apply that into the other products and services. Okay, we know we had to look at this kind of concentration risk and build in. And okay, well, and it does help you vet out bad products very quickly too, because you've gone through these steps.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, well, we're going to only ultimate this and we're only going to build this level of clientele. Okay, the risk versus reward is not in it there at all.
Yeah.
And so going every little detail through one project is imperative, because then you don't have to as much on the others, or you can rely on others and you can spot check.
Yeah. This is good. This is so much better than my answer.
Oh,
I was going to say, ask your current trusted customers.
yeah. Well, you said before you launch,
You know?
because then you don't even have the customers you can ask yet sometimes. But yes, we had
before
prior
launch.
to launching, I internally did the risk assessment. I saw a need out there and developed that. And then I spoke to the customers because I wanted a little bit extra information.
Yeah.
What about this?
Yeah.
And then now the two customers that we're going to beta test with, they're locked on and they see it as well. They're excited.
Yeah, because it's, there's viability in asking current trusted customers feedback about new ideas, but there's also a balance of getting their feedback with them not having context to what you want to do with it, and balancing your vision of what this could be.
Yeah, and that reminds me of, it's like the sayings, customers always right is stupid. Always focus on your employees is stupid. Like, you've got to do a combination of everything.
Yeah.
So
gotta
there
be a
is
mix.
no one side. Obviously we know customers not always right.
Yeah.
But, in some cases, yes, they are.
Yeah.
So you have to look
You
into
have to
it.
listen, but you also have to think for yourself.
Yeah. And then, you've got that mindset, you got to, do everything for your employees and support employees. Well, then your shareholders may not like that. And aren't they your bosses? So, but you also can't focus 100% on shareholders, because then, your employees are going to be like, yeah, we've made them all this money and we're doing all the work and not getting paid anything. We need to get a proportion.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of all of it that you have to. And I mean, it's time when you have multiple kids. You handle each one of your children differently because you know how they react differently.
Yeah.
You know, you maybe can't be as blunt to one as you can the other.
Yeah. I think this is a great response because, you know, coming at it from a risk standpoint, you can really apply that sort of broadly because you are looking at the market, you're looking at current customer relationships, you're looking at, you know, directors, you know, shareholders, influencers internally, you're looking at your team, you're looking at vendors, every relationship and how it all plays into the mix. And you're testing, you're testing, but you're assessing, you know, what can we actually launch this product and it be a viable thing for all of these parties. So that assessment, it goes beyond risk. I think that's the message here is risk first because you want to preserve what you have and grow intentionally and sustainably. But beyond that, it's assessments in other ways. You're assessing the ability to launch something or product or service. So I think that's such a great
and to me, really, there's two risks to everything. It's time and financial.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two main ones. Now, in my world, they're going to add in, well, you've got compliance risk. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, but that is also all compliance risk ties into money. Mm-hmm. Okay, you can get compliance by either hiring it or you can do it yourself, which is time. Mm-hmm. So you've got that
and that translates across every business.
Correct. So it's time and financial is what goes through. You know, how much do you have to have up front? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, now you have that risk. If we got to put out X amount of dollars for this product, or you have to buy that equipment. Now you know that front end financial risk. How long is it going to take you to make back that $100,000 because you bought that equipment to produce X? Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm sorry, and right off the bat, if it's going to take you 10 years to make the money back on that product, you know, to buy the equipment for it, that's bad.
And forecasting, how are you using that equipment? You know, how often?
But I mean, just if it's simple, we had to pay $100,000, but we're only going to make $10,000 a year, but the equipment dies in 5 years. Okay, horrible product. Move on. Yeah. You know, so that's really is. It's time and money. Yeah. Allocating all of that.
Yep, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I think that we probably could go deeper on this at some point, but that's a great practical first phase step for any business. I
Excellent.
love it.
Good.
Yeah.
What were you going to say now?
No, I'm not even going to say the rest of what I'm going to say.
You should.
It was not good. It was very, very much more lower level.
All right. Well,
but that's why we have you here.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, well, I'm constantly wrong too. Always second guess yourself. You know, have confidence, but second guess yourself too.
What I pull out of it is think for yourself, because yes, it's time and money, but you have to have the wherewithal, both wide. I think about it like wide and deep. You have to have some depth of expertise in a certain domain, but you also have to know how to apply it widely.
Yeah.
And if you can't think for yourself, it doesn't matter how much money you spend or don't spend or time you invest or don't invest.
Yeah. And in my world, when I talk to other bankers and I see that, they're just like, oh, the compliance risk. But I'm like, at least on compliance risk, they tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a roadmap.
Yeah.
They have a problem. You got to do this, this, and that.
Yeah.
So we beyond the shadow of that, do that.
Yeah, it's like a checklist.
Yeah, okay, then you reduce the compliance risk because you did that. You don't have to be perfect, but you did what they said to do. Mm-hmm. And so at least no matter what, even if you made a mistake on that, you didn't do it as a willful blindness. Mm-hmm. You weren't negligent.
Yeah.
Then when they come in and say you made a mistake, they're being a Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah.
But at least from that standpoint, they could have made that mistake too, if they're logical and look through there. So, you know, you've got instructions when it is compliance related risk.
And if it ends up being some innovative product or service that they don't have compliance around because you're that innovative, you can go to them and say, I'm doing this thing. Do you have any structure for me? And they can say, no. You document all those conversations. You start the footpath. And they will start to have structure for you as soon as you make it past a certain milestone.
Yes.
And then you're back into the same relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I've had conversations over the years. It was like, no, I did this. Examiners said they were fine with this, and now you're changing your mind.
Yeah.
I'm fine if you change your mind. Prove to me in the regulations why you're changing your mind. Let's see if I have to agree with that. But you're not going to write me up for something that you approved prior and that we've been going along on that path because we all felt that was covering it sufficiently.
That's right.
But if we change, that's great. But here's the track record. Yeah. You're not going to ding me for something we all agreed upon back then.
Mm-hmm.
not going to do it. And then you have to fight in that convention and say, bring it on.
Yeah.
Yes. So we've had plenty of those. And then that's when I can tell I get really excited and I get, frustrated. No, you're not going to come back and
then you're
talk
onto
out of two
something.
sides of your mouth. You're just not. You made a mistake. Great. I make mistakes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to own it and move forward.
Yeah. And lastly, what I think I like about this framework is that it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to move slow. Now, if you're in a more highly regulated industry, you're going to have to move at the pace that you're able to. You can still move faster than other competitors, but if you're not in a highly regulated industry, you can still move quickly and have everyone growing in the same direction.
But I still think you can move quickly because you set up all of
because it's a framework.
You have your templates, you have your templates, you have this, and so I had a recently a company in industry and things that looking for us to product the bank and this. So instead of going through all the risk assessment, I already knew in that particular industry what was the most important. And in that particular industry was, because of the transactions and they're related to it, had to do with one specific banking policy. So I just focused in on that one and they weren't up to par on that policy. So that just saved a huge amount of time. So why would I go through all the other risks when I knew ultimately what carried the biggest weight was this? So I'm just going to target that one first. If they can comply with the greatest risk first, and I'm comfortable with that, then we'll go back, and then start the whole process.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they don't with that greatest risk. So that just saved a tremendous amount of time and effort.
Yeah, that's right. This is good. All right. Maybe I'll make a note on this when we come back to and talk a little bit more, because it's obvious you came out of the gate so hot there that there's more behind that. There's more. It's not just risk assessment. I'm sure you got like 2 other phases you could walk through.
Oh yeah. There's a ton of phases, and it is
you've
frustrating.
Done this a lot. That's why.
Yeah, it is extremely frustrating in time frame, but because I always have to think about third party's going to come in and look at our minutes. They're going to look at these committees and they're going to see, okay, you went on this product. Did you mention it in your IT steering committee? Did everybody vote on that? What are the minutes on in here? Oh, did it go to the board level? Did it go to this level? Did it this level? And it just, I lived in a world from the get-go of Monday morning quarterbacks, and it's like, kidding me.
Yeah.
So it's all about shutting that Monday morning quarterback down.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's being in control of the process that you're walking through, knowing all the parties that are part of it.
But you got to think of, let's think, why did they create these things in the beginning? Why did somebody have to be forced to tax to create this policy or framework?
Yeah. Think in terms of how they
really, because something went wrong. And now they're like, that's what happens. Is something went wrong in the economy or in the industry, and now they're like, we're going to fix it.
Yeah, let's put.
And
more
they're going to
policy.
task somebody that was never in that industry that is now going to create a policy and a thing to do it. But generally, it was because there was a big screw up, and they're trying to put in parameters into that. They don't always align, but sometimes, a lot of times they have align. There are a lot of things that have aligned.
Translating that is difficult.
And it's like, okay, they put these in. Why did they? And sometimes you got to go back of why did they put this in line? Why did they put in lending? Why do they have
speak their terms.
Concentration levels? Well, because if you had X amount always in construction, well, that's the most dangerous portion of lending is from there to construction. A lot of things can happen. You've got a lot of people on that property. You've got liens. You've got people that maybe didn't fulfill their obligation. Whether the electrical contractor didn't fulfill or dropped dead. Now everything else is going to be on hold until you find another person.
Yep.
So yes. So as a bank, you don't want that much time dedicated to this. There was a reason for it. Not only was time involved, the risk. Okay, great. Doesn't mean you can't supersede their policies, but you better think. And so there's a lot of good stuff they have. So walk through all that.
Yep. It's great. Yep. That's awesome. Thanks for that.
Yep.
All right.
Welcome.
On to the next one.
Bye.